Hello everyone and welcome to the online lecture series by Shet Vidya Mandir English High School and Junior College of Science and Commerce. Myself JAYESH RAJGOR and today we are going to study 12th Standard Economics New Syllabus Chapter number 5 Forms of Market. Yes my dear students, market is generally understood as a particular place or locality where goods are sold and purchased. But in economics, market refers to an arrangement through which buyers and sellers come in contact with each other, directly or indirectly. An exchange of goods and services takes place among them. My dear students, in the previous video lecture, we saw classification of market. We also saw definition of market by Augustine Carnot, where the famous economist stated that the term market is not about any particular marketplace in which things are bought and sold, but it is the whole of any region in which buyers and sellers are in such a close contact with one another that the prices of the same goods tend to equality easily and quickly. Thus, market is a network of dealings between potential buyers and potential sellers. Yes, my dear students, at any point of time, we feel that market will exist if there are buyers and seller. Similarly, there should be a product or service to be bought or sold. Similarly, there has to be a price, otherwise, it would be just like a barter exchange. So, there is a need of price. Also, there has to be close contact between buyers and sellers. And lastly, knowledge of the market is essential. My dear students, classification of the market is done on the basis of place, time, and competition. On the basis of place, we saw local market, which deals completely in the local area or region where goods are produced. We also saw national market, which is a domestic market in a given country, and we also saw international market. Here, international market is a worldwide market in which buyers and sellers trade in goods and services across national borders. Similarly, my dear students, we saw classification of market on the basis of time, where we saw very short period, long period, and very long period market, where we studied that long run is a period of time in which all factors of production and cost are completely variable. In the long run, firms are able to adjust all cost. It is for a few years, generally up to 5 years. So we had a span of time in classification of market on the basis of time. But my dear students, today we are going to understand classification of market on the basis of competition. Yes, namely perfect competition and imperfect competition. My dear students, if we try and take this topic and define it in one single line, perfect competition is nothing but an ideal form of market but an imaginary concept. Similarly, imperfect competition, it has some features of a competitive modern day market. So let us today have a look at classification of market on the basis of competition and begin with perfect competition. Yes, my dear students, competition among the sellers and buyers is the most important criteria for classification of market in economics. So let us begin with perfect competition. It is an ideal and imaginary concept of market rather than an actual market. According to Ms. John Robinson, perfect competition prevails when the demand for the output of each producer is perfectly elastic. Yes, my dear students, perfect competition means everything seems to be perfect here, and that is why this is an imaginary concept, my dear students, because nowadays nothing seems to be perfect in this highly competitive market. So let us go further and study perfect competition in detail. A perfectly competitive market is one in which the number of buyers and sellers is very large. Similarly, all the buyers and sellers are engaged in buying and selling of a homogeneous product. Yes, my dear students, homogeneous means the similar kind or a same type of a product which is not possible in modern day world, and that is why in the beginning itself it has been said that perfect competition is an imaginary concept. Moreover, both buyers as well as the sellers possess perfect knowledge of market conditions. Let us study some important features of perfect competition. Yes, my dear students, there are in all 8 important features of perfect competition, namely, perfect knowledge of market is there in perfect competition. Similarly, there is perfect mobility of factors of production. Also, there are a large number of buyers and sellers available in the market, as well as there is absence of transport cost. Now, this makes it imaginary because every competitive market has transportation costs somewhere or the other, but here the feature of perfect competition itself says absence of transport cost. Similarly, there's no government intervention. Yes, once again a point which shows this is an imaginary market. Similarly, there prevails single price for the commodity, there is free entry and exit, and lastly, homogeneous product is sold in the perfectly competitive market. Let us have a look at all these features one by one, a detailed look. Firstly, perfect knowledge of market. Yes, my dear students, the buyers and sellers possess a perfect knowledge about the market conditions. Every seller and buyer has the knowledge about price, quality, source of supply of products, etc. So basically, perfect knowledge of the market. Everything about the market, every up and down, every price related thing, every quality related thing is known to both the buyers as well as the seller, and that is why this market is called as a perfectly competitive market, because everyone has perfect knowledge about the market. Moving on to the next point says perfect mobility of factors of production. There's no kind of any barrier which stops mobility. Mobility means movement of factors of production from one place to another, and this is really perfect in this type of a market. There is perfect mobility of factors of production under perfect competition. Labor and capital are mobile not only geographically but also occupationally. So it is very clear in this point that there is no restriction or no barrier among labor or any kind of a transfer of capital from one place to another, not only geographically but also occupationally. It means that a person doing agriculture can definitely shift it to doing any other kind of a job, or like selling his land for build malls or making some buildings or apartments at his agricultural field. So occupational change can also happen very easily in perfectly competitive market. Moving further, third point says large number of buyers and sellers. Under perfect competitions, there are large number of sellers and buyers available. As mentioned earlier, each seller forms a negligible part in the total market. So, no one can influence anyone's demand or supply. Hence, none of them is in a position to influence the price and supply in the market. Thus, sellers are price takers under perfect competition. Mark this line, my dear students. Sellers are price takers under perfect competition. The number of buyers is also large. The share of each buyer is so negligible that none of them is in a position to influence the price in the market. So basically the point to remember here is large number of buyers and large number of sellers. Moving further, the fourth point says absence of transport, that is the transport cost is missing, and this is what makes this concept itself imaginary one. In perfect competition, price is uniform because we assume that transport cost does not exist, which is not possible in today's modern world, but still it is an assumption that transport cost does not exist. This assumption will lead to uniformity in price. The next point is no government intervention. Yes, my dear students, we are studying perfect competition where everything seems to be very perfect, and this is what makes it an imaginary concept. Laissez-faire policy. Laissez-faire policy means, my dear students, there is no government control, there is no government intervention, no taxation policies. This is laissez-faire. It is an important feature of perfect competition. It means there is absence of government intervention in economic activities. Moving further to the sixth point, this point says single price, and as we know, there is no transportation cost. There is uniformity in price. Everyone can charge a single uniform price. Yes, a single uniform price prevails under perfect competition, which is determined by interaction of demand and supply. The next point is a very simple one: free entry and exit. There are no barriers to entry, and similarly, anyone can exit anytime. Any firm can enter or quit the industry at its own will. If there is hope of profit, the firm will enter the market, and if there is possibility of loss, the firm will leave the market. Moving on to the last point, here we are with homogeneous product. An important feature of a perfectly competitive market is that the product sold is homogeneous. It means same, similar, or identical in respect of size, design, color, taste, etc. All the products are perfect substitutes to each other. So my dear students, in this video we studied about competition, that is perfect competition, basically classification of market on the basis of competition, that is perfect competition. In the next video lecture we will study imperfect competition and various types in imperfect competitive market. Till then, stay safe, stay connected. Thank you very much.